amazing that I was asked to come back and do this for him. I'm just tremendously honored. I went to Glasgow in '82, but in '83, Michael W. Smith and his wife Debbie were wrestling with a friend, breaking away from their Bible study group. He was moving out of state, and Debbie said, "Michael, we need to write a song for him." He said, "Yeah, we will. We'll write it and then send it to him later." She said, "No, I mean by tonight for Bible study." He said, "Are you crazy?" She went in, wrote most of the lyrics, came back out. He went to the piano. He said, "It's completely backward from what I usually do with a song," but he said it just came out. And that song became a phenomenon of a song. In fact, Michael would even sing it at George, the old president, George H. Bush, at his funeral at the Washington Cathedral. The song is Friends. The chorus goes like this. Friends are friends forever, if the Lord's the Lord of them. And a friend will not say never, cause the welcome does not end. Though it's hard to let you go, in the Father's hands we know that a lifetime's not too long to live as friends. And Bruce Edwards was a friend like that to me. I loved him. I was not as close to him as some of you, but I loved him. His wife Debbie, his wife Peggy, his children, his grandchildren, whom I barely know. But I say to you, when I went there in November, it was November 1982. Jennifer, were you born on the 28th? The 1st of November? Okay. I thought you were born that Sunday that I came to preach. Because I remember you at the hospital and they were having a big baby, and that was you. Maybe I was there that Sunday. I don't know, but I remember that so distinctly when you were born. Bruce was a friend to me. You know, he had not been a Christian very long when I came to Glasgow. He had told Debbie, he said, "Choose God or choose me." And I'm glad that she didn't have to do that. Because not long after that, a pastor who preceded me, John Gilliland, he came to see Bruce out at his house when he was working on that house where you guys grew up. And he had a friend with him, Joe Ames, a fiery evangelist. And they got to talking to Bruce, and he was up on a ladder. He come down off that ladder, had a prayer with them, invited Jesus into his heart, and his life was forever changed. And what a man of God he became. He would serve God with a passion. I met him in 1981. We went to Texas together at a national convention. Our church joined with his, and we went together. But what a man of God he became. What an influencer he was. And he loved God with a passion. And Bruce was a soldier, as we all know, 26 years in the Army National Guard. But his most important enlistment was when he became a soldier for Jesus Christ. And he would be the first one to amen this today, that is the greater war, that is the greater service, is when we are in the Lord's army and marching to his tune. And I thought, I don't get to talk this talk very many times, only just 3 or 4, but I knew it fit Bruce the moment Peggy asked me to do this service. And it was Paul, the apostle, as he was leaving the world. He wrote to Timothy what would be his last words to Timothy, his last words to the world. And in the last chapter of 2 Timothy, he said this, "For I am now ready to be offered, and the time of my departure is at hand. I've fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. And henceforth there's laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me at that day, and not to me only, but to everyone else who loves his appearing." And I see in this an aged soldier, Paul, a reflection I also saw in Bruce of that very same ideal. Because Paul had a cause. for which he fought. He had a course that he ran, and he had a crown that he gained. And what a cause. He said, I have fought a good fight. And it is a fight to live a Christian life in a world like this. Bruce understood that. Paul knew what it was. Bruce knew what it was. We know what it is to walk with God and to engage in a spiritual, unfriendly world, to live for him, let your light shine, though the darkness permeates the world around you. Bruce did that every day. He would encourage us to do the same. But he said also, I have finished my course. I've done what God would have me do. Now, he would be the first one to admit that he missed a lot of turns. Kind of like that time in the car when they were doing jokes and things like that, missed their turn. He got off the track, he got up. He would be the first to admit that he made some mistakes. I mean, who in their honest mind wouldn't say that? But he finished the course that God had laid down for him to do, the journey that God had given him to travel. And he was happy. He wanted to be holy. And right now, he's experiencing a heaven that is more real than anything else he's ever felt. And then he said, I've kept the faith too. Paul said, look, I fought a good cause, I fought a good fight. I have finished the course, but all along the way, I have kept the faith. You know, there are a lot of things in this world that you want to hang on to, but none so as important as your faith. Your faith is so needful. Your faith is so important that nothing you can put beside it could ever come close. Because your faith affects everything else you care about and that you love. When you bring God into your picture, when you bring God into your world, when you bring God into your life, and you share that with others, it makes an impact for good and for God and for all of eternity. Bruce understood that with all of his heart. He had a time to reflect here. Paul said, you know, I'm ready to go. My time is at hand. You know, God gave Bruce that same acknowledgement. He knew he was close. Last time I talked to him on the phone, he said, Brother Tim, I know I don't have much further to go. I think that's a wonderful thing when God gives you that. Now, not everybody gets it. I mean, there are those who, die in a second. And we don't get that, but God gave that to Paul, and God gave that to Bruce. And I think he cherished every moment of it. And every opportunity he had, he shared his faith, and he influenced people for Jesus Christ. You see, Paul said he kept the faith, so did Bruce. It wasn't a faith. And the world is full of faiths. People believe in anything and everything. They put their faith in this, they put their faith in that, but there's only one, the faith.
That's right.
I've kept the faith. It is the faith that was once delivered unto the saints. It is the faith that Jude said, we need to fight for that one. He said, let's fight to keep it pure. Let's make sure we hang on to what was first delivered unto the saints. Let's not let anything slip away from us. And that's a battle. And it's worth fighting for. And Bruce loved it. And then there comes a time to receive the crown. I mean, there's a cause, there's a great cost, there's a course we run, but there's a crown too. I heard a man say in one of my Sunday school classes, he said, I think that I would want to be a Christian even if there was no heaven.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't even conceive it. I said, living for Christ, that's not easy. Carrying a cross is not easy. You have to deny yourself and follow Christ. I don't think I could do it without heaven at the end of the line. I'm just glad that I believe with all my heart, and so do you, I hope, that heaven is at the end of the line.
Yes.
It's awaiting all those, Paul said, that love the Lord and that are the called according to his purpose. And if you're like me, you don't deserve that crown. We'll be like that gospel group casting crowns. Because if we get a chance and we actually get a crown, we'll cast them at the feet of the one to whom we owe it all. One thing Bruce related to Peggy very clearly, and I think he'd be proud to see all of you. I know we've been here a long time, but he said, I want you just to encourage them to make Jesus their Savior, number one in their life. He said, Brother Tim, I want you just to tell them how important it is to walk with Christ. It's not just a good idea, and it's not about being happy. I think we tell people wrong. We say, hey, become a Christian, you'll be happy. Man, I know a lot of unhappy Christians. And I guarantee you one thing, there's been a lot of days when I wasn't very happy. I tell you what, the devil, somebody said, how's the world treating you? I said, the world's treating me fine. It's the people in it that's not very nice. But people can really give you a run for your money and everything else. But there's a heaven at the end of the line. Look, the reason we walk with Jesus is because there is a heaven at the end of the line. And that's worth everything. I tell you what, the closer I get, the more it gets exciting to me. I mean, I'll be 69 in November, and I know you thought I wasn't anywhere near that. I am, every bit of it. And the closer I get to heaven, the more real it becomes. I love what Solomon said in Proverbs chapter, I think 4, verse 23. He says, but the light of that city grows brighter and brighter as we approach it. That's the beauty of it. When you lose your strength, you lose everything else. And you know there's a heaven at the end of it. Bruce wanted me just to say unto you that he loves you, he cares for you, and that he wants to see you and spend eternity with you. And Jesus is the only way we get to do that. That's the only way, that's the only promise we have. I hope you have the same cause. That cause is Christ. I hope you're running your course, the one that God laid down for you, because they're all different. We all have these different courses. But I hope also there's a crown awaiting you. I know you don't feel you deserve it. None of us do. But Jesus, who is rich, wants to give it. And so who are we to say no? God bless you today. God love you today. And God guide you today in his perfect way. Jamie, go.